I am 101 years old today. It is a number that feels less like an age and more like a coordinate on a map that very few people ever reach. When you live to be this old, you become a curiosity, a living artifact that people want to study. They look at my skin, my hands, my eyes, searching for a secret formula, a magic pill, something that explains why I am still here, while so many others have faded away. But the truth is this: the advice I have to give is not magic. It is hard-earned wisdom, the wisdom of a woman who has fallen, broken, and rebuilt herself more times than she can count. Wisdom I have been trying to share since I was only 86 years old. The first thing I want to tell you is to stop fighting the face in the mirror. I look at young women today, and even men, and I see this terrified desperation to freeze time. I have said this for decades. Beauty comes from within. It sounds like a cliché until you see what happens when you ignore it. All those fillers, all those needles, all those things you do to plump up your face, they are a trap. You think you are preserving your youth, but I promise you this: 10 years from now, you will look in the mirror and you will see a stranger. I look at my wrinkles today and I do not see ugliness. I see a map of my joy. Every wrinkle I have is where a smile has been. Why would you want to erase the evidence that you have lived, laughed, and loved? I learned the true value of time, not when I was young and beautiful, but when I was 86. That was the year I fell and broke my hip. For many people, a broken hip at that age is the beginning of the end. I was lying there, living an 86-year-old life, but feeling like a 60-year-old inside, and suddenly the illusion of infinite time shattered. It was not depressing. It was a call to action. I had to ask myself, what have I done to get here? And more importantly, how do I want to spend the rest of this closing window? That fall did not stop me. It woke me up. You see, my life was never a fairy tale. People see a smiling old woman and assume I had it easy, but I walked through fire to get here. I was married to a man who was schizophrenic, a man who was dangerous. I lived in a home that was often scary, and eventually he was murdered. I was left with 3 children to raise by myself. I remember the weight of that responsibility, the sheer terror of it. I could have fallen to my knees and stayed there. I could have let the woe is me mentality take over, but I didn't. I realized I had a choice. I could stay down, or I could get up, dust myself off, and move on, because my children needed me. That experience taught me that I was stronger than I ever knew. I was, and you are too, but you have to choose to stand up. The only way I survived that darkness, and the only way I have kept my sanity for over a century, is through a simple practice that most people dismiss as too easy: gratitude. It is the fuel that keeps you young. Every single day, you must find one thing to be grateful for. I don't care if your world is burning down around you. Find one thing. It does not have to be gigantic. It can be the smell of coffee brewing in the morning, the sight of a sunrise, or simply the feeling of a drop of rain on your face when you force your mind to focus on that one positive thing. You stop the spiral of negativity. It shifts your brain. It saved my life when I was drowning in grief and fear, and it is the reason I can still smile at 101. If you cannot find one thing to appreciate, you are not looking hard enough. If gratitude is the fuel that keeps you running, then the people around you are the road you travel on. And if that road is full of potholes and broken glass, you will never get anywhere, no matter how much gratitude you have. This brings me to the hardest lesson I ever had to learn, and the one that usually makes people the most uncomfortable. You have to be absolutely ruthless about who you allow into your life. There is a misconception that loyalty means sticking by people who hurt you, especially if they share your blood. That is a lie, and it will steal your happiness. I have told people for years, and I will tell you again, at 101, one of the 3 biggest mistakes you can ever make is keeping negative people in your life. If you have people around you who feed you negative things about yourself, who whisper, "Oh, you can't do that. That will never happen," you have to let them go. Yes, even if it is a family member. I know how radical that sounds. We are taught to endure, to keep the peace, but you can have people around you who are jealous of your success, and they bring a heaviness that absorbs into your soul and your psyche. They are anchors, and you cannot swim if you are tied to an anchor. It does not matter. If you love the anchor, you will still drown. I have had so many people contact me over the years telling me how painful it is to cut ties with toxic family members. But do you know what they tell me afterwards? They tell me that once they walked away, they felt a weight lifted from their souls, and for the first time, they could breathe. They could finally lead a better life. You cannot heal in the same environment that made you sick. Once you have cleared out the noise and the negativity, you make room for something real. So let's talk about love. I see young people rushing, panicking that they haven't found the one by 30. I want you to laugh at that timeline. I did not meet the love of my life until I was 47 years old. I had already lived a whole lifetime of trauma and difficulty before I found him. He was 13 years older than me. He had never been married. He had no ex-wives, no children, and we were together for 41 years until he passed away. Those were the best years of my life. So if you are sitting there thinking you missed the boat, you haven't, but you need to know what to look for. Stop chasing the fireworks. The fireworks burn out. If you want a love that lasts until you are my age, you have to marry your friend. You really do. Because once the excitement and chemistry wear off, and they will, you have to actually, like the person sitting across from you at the breakfast table, you need respect, My definition of love has changed over a century. Love is not just the initial spark. Love is compassion. Love is sacrifice and commitment. It is tolerance. It is the ability to be angry, to disagree, but never go to bed without hugging one another and saying, I'm sorry, or at least, let's get over it. That ability to forgive and move forward, that is the glue. My husband was good to my children, and he allowed me to be me. Finding him late in life proved to me that the best chapters often come when you think the book is almost finished. If you are lucky enough to live as long as I have, you will realize something important. Life is not a single book. It is a library of many different volumes. The most dangerous lie society tells you is that you have to figure everything out by the time you are 30. I look at young people today, paralyzed by fear, afraid of choosing the wrong career, afraid of missing their prime, and I want to tell them this: my best decade did not even begin until I was 50 years old. Think about that, 50. That is the age when most people start looking for the exit sign, planning retirement, slowing down. But for me, that was when the curtain rose at 50. I decided I wanted to be an actress. I didn't just dream about it. I went out and did it. I worked with directors like Woody Allen and Martin Scorsese. I performed off-Broadway. I held lead roles. I had the time of my life at an age when society told me I should be invisible. I have always said this. Every 10 years, I reinvent myself. I close one chapter and I open another because I refuse to be stagnant. So if you are sitting there at 40, 50, or even 60, thinking your time has passed, you are wrong. You are simply turning the page. However, as you turn those pages, remember this: professional success means nothing if you leave a trail of coldness behind you. My father was a good man, strong, honest. He taught me morals that shaped who I am. But there was one lesson I learned from him by looking at the empty spaces he left behind. He did not hug me enough. It was not his fault. It was the era he lived in. Men back then kept things to themselves. They did not show emotion. Growing up without that reassurance taught me exactly what I needed to do differently. I made a vow that I would hug my children constantly. I wanted them to know they were important. They were worthy. It seems like such a small thing, a hug, saying I love you, but it goes a long way in making a human being feel like they matter. In a world that is becoming increasingly cold, where people are narcissistic, obsessed with image, simple affection is a revolutionary act. I look at the world today compared to the 1950s, and it scares me. We used to be safer. We used to care more. Now morals seem to have flown out the window, and everyone is an island. This disconnect is why, in my 80s, I accidentally became a grandmother. To thousands of strangers on the internet, I realized something. So many young people, especially Gen Z, were lost. They could not relate to their parents, or their parents were too busy. So they came to me. They needed advice without strings attached. They needed love without rejection. That role became one of the most fulfilling chapters of my life because it proved something simple. We are all starving for connection, no matter the year on our birth certificate. So here I am at 101. I have been a wife, a widow, a single mother, an actress, and an influencer. I have survived abuse, grief, and a broken hip that tried to stop me. And after all of this, if you ask me what success really is, I will not tell you. It is subscriber counts, or fame, or money. Success is quieter than that. Success is being able to sit down at the end of your life, whether that end comes at 80 or 101, and ask yourself, am I happy? Did I live a purposeful life? Did I help someone else? That is it. That is the secret. The best thing you can do with your life is to do something for someone else, even if it is just a phone call. That makes someone's day a little brighter. Don't chase the money. Don't chase the youth. Chase the feeling of being useful to another human being. If you can look in the mirror when you are my age, see your wrinkles as maps of your smiles, and know that you lifted someone else up along the way, then you have won. Now go out there and live. The window is closing, but it is not shut yet. Make it count.